So, welcome to the second episode of Informal Tango interviews, in which we simply sit down to have a nice chat with some tango people. And today I have another very interesting personality, I would say, here in my show. And before we start, I just want to remind you that anyone can actually ask me, to have an interview and just send me a message or comment down the video, and we'll have a nice talk as well. So welcome today, Oliver, as my second guest.
Hi, Lucas. Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, it's my pleasure, and it's great that you were willing to join the show, and I was really looking forward to your contribution. So, of course, the first topic I would like to discuss is, like, how did tango come to your life? Like, this type of question.
Yeah, I love that story actually very much. So I'm trained as an actor and a theater maker, and in those days, when I was still being on stage every evening, it was in Stuttgart in southern Germany. I was married to an actress. We met during our studies, and the interesting thing was we could dance very well together, but we couldn't ballroom dances. We were not able to do together because I had learned how to dance ballroom in a couple. So the standard dances you learn when you go to a dance school, and we couldn't do that together. And one day she thought, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we have some time, just that we do a dance course together? And she had found an interesting, and I liked the idea very much, and she had found a school in Stuttgart which had the name Tango Vorstadt, so the suburb of the tango. And I had, wait a minute, they only do tango. There's no place where we could dance that afterwards. Maybe when you go somewhere to a ball, there are 2 or 3 tangos the evening. So I had no idea. I'd never heard about the Argentine tango. So we skipped that idea for a while, and then she came back and no, they also do the normal standard Latin, all these dances. And I like the idea. And we started doing that. It was great fun on a practice evening, which happened in those days twice a week. There were always little parts during the evening where the people who were only learning how to dance Argentine tango could do some dances. It's kind of Argentine tango tanda. And I saw that, and I thought, wow, this is so what I immediately experienced was the non-verbal dialogue happening between the dancers, the non-verbal communication, where you from the outside only can have the idea what that might be about, what they are talking about in their dance. And for me, this was a beauty. How I perceived the conversation that was happening between the couples, that I immediately wanted to learn. So now we both were sure that we also wanted to learn that, and we did it, and we danced very nicely. And in those days in southern Germany, the people just started to learn from the maestros that there is also a form of dancing tango with each other where you are very close to each other, chest to chest. So what I first learned was this choreographical, spectacular stuff, which we had seen on stages of the big tango shows coming from Buenos Aires in that years. And then later we also grew into what we then called close embrace. Later we learned an embrace is only an embrace if it is close. Then unfortunately, I was very enthusiastic, and my former wife thought, no, I also don't want to put all my private time into learning this strange dance. And so the tango, besides other things, made us split up, although we could dance very nicely. But I felt, hey, wow, this was also the time where I had started teaching how to play theater. I was very much specialized on speech expression. My specialty was to teach actors how to deal with poetry, with classical structures in poetry, if you want to interpret them, if you want to make them hearable for an audience. I was anyway making a switch from needing to practice the whole day for a role I played in the evening to teaching during the day. So suddenly I had evenings free. And instead of studying a new role, a new character, I was always busy with that. I had time to learn something else. So I, for myself, chose for learning this language, how tango felt in those years to me. This is a language I don't know. There are movements in this dance I have never seen before, I've never experienced before. And I felt very attracted to that. And I had time to practice for myself, to find friends which liked to practice together with me. Yeah, and it even, the tango led me away from Stuttgart. I moved slowly via Aachen in Germany to the Netherlands, to Arnhem. Later I moved back to Germany, then I moved to Utrecht, from Utrecht to Gouda, where I live now, with my wife. So I have remarried. Yeah, so this was actually how I got to know tango, how I found this cultural stream that it is for me.
It's quite a unique perspective, right? And before I actually ask something more about that, I would like to know in what years, like when did you start? Because I believe, we've talked about this before, and I believe you are, you are quite part of the old guard of tango, so to say. Like you've been around for a very long time. You haven't really mentioned that in what you just said previously, but it's quite a long history, right?
I started learning how to dance tango in '93. And I was
that's I would say you're part of the old guard, so to say. It's always very interesting when people have been around for so long. And
yeah.
I actually know a lot of people who started in the late '90s, but you were even earlier, and
Yeah.
it means you have experienced a lot of history, like the development of tango as dance and as how it's DJ'd during a very long period of time.
Yeah, when I look who my teachers were, and then when I started to teach how to dance tango, I started somewhere in the mid-90s, and Birgit and Mustafa were already around as a teaching couple in that years, Marianne and Hervé, which were pupils of Erik Jurissen in Nijmegen, perhaps. And Erik again had learned from Walter Brave. Walter Brave is a little bit honored as the as the young grandfather of the tango in the Netherlands. Although there are also other streams and other traditions. So they were already around. So I see myself as the third generation of tango teachers in the Netherlands.
Okay, but you started in Germany, right? So you were living in Germany initially.
No,
So
interestingly, I started teaching in Aachen with a own studio. The name of the studio was Media Luna, at a time where I was already half of my life living in Arnhem in the Netherlands.
okay.
So I was commuting between Arnhem and Aachen, and with my former partner, Jacqueline Kips from Arnhem, we always prepared the lessons in the studio of Flor de Fango. And then I went to Aachen. I first taught 2 evenings with 2 other partners, which came from Cologne to Aachen. And then on the 3rd evening, Jacqueline joined me again. It was very, very interesting because then already a metamorphosis had happened with the material we had prepared. So there was always, we first had to find again what we actually had talked about that we wanted to teach on a certain evening. Yeah. So it is it is a kind of I don't know the English word for spagat, split maybe. I was already standing with one leg on the floor of Flor de Fango, and my other leg was in Aachen in the studio of Media Luna.
But let's go back to the time when you were like this beginning, because you were essentially saying that there was something in tango in the communication as well as in the movements that was particularly interesting to you from your background as an actor. I think I haven't really heard that from anyone else. It's a very interesting story. And were these like these interests, so to say, did they develop any further? Is this still something, something particular, or was it just the beginning?
Something very extraordinary happened to me in my life when you look biographically. I was actually, as a drama teacher and also as a theater director, very specialized on the walking of the human being. So before I knew tango, before I knew anything about caminar, I always used the walk. How do you walk? How do you stand in this situation, this role, with this text you have to speak? So before we actually worked in our productions on how to say a thing, we first were working on how do we feel in our bodies? If we would walk at this moment, how would we walk? And you can imagine, I don't know if you know classical German theater literature, which has, especially when you go to Goethe and Schiller, has a certain, what the people say in that place has a rhythm, has a metric. And this rhythm can be translated in a way of walking. So, and then I found tango, and in the beginning, I learned structures. And later, when I had to start teaching myself, I suddenly realized, hey, wait a minute, if I want to show people in my lessons what the base is, what I felt at the moment, the base of the tango, we should first learn how to walk on our own, that it is in context with the music, and then walk together in an embrace. It is actually two human beings which have flown over into each other are also able to walk, and then musically, and then it can become a dance. So this was a very important moment for me when I started how to teach tango. And then something very sad happened. I don't know if all the listeners and viewers of this interview know that I'm sitting nowadays in a wheelchair. So there was a moment I just had starting with my wife, with Siobhan, to teach tango in Gouda. And
in what year? In what year? Sorry.
That was in 2007 we started.
Okay.
We were already experimenting in 2006. 2007 we started to teach professionally together. And we were just finding each other, because when you teach in a couple, you have to always deal with your own dominance, with your own non-ability to give space, which is always an issue for me when I taught in a couple. So I was just learning to give space to Siobhan, and to also to be okay if there is a moment of silence, because she thinks, she feels in a very deep way before she expresses what is in a movement. And I was just learning to give her that space. And then slowly a paralysis started, which I didn't know that it was a paralysis. I had really suddenly walking problems. You see it on old videos. You can see when I show something in the lesson, everything is nice. You don't see anything. Then I'm walking to the stereo set to change the music, and you see this guy has problems with his movement. And Naya, it ended, or you can also call it a new beginning. In 2009, I really landed in the wheelchair. I suddenly couldn't walk anymore. It took quite a while for the neurologist to find out what the reason was of this paralysis. And after a year, they found what the reason was, and they could remove it. And that's why I'm still alive. And wow. I have also, because the paralysis was rising, and at a certain moment, my lung and my heart would have been affected. So they could quite easily, but it took them quite a while to find out what the reason was, move the reason. And then I learned to walk again, to stand again with crutches, with a rollator. And it's not enough yet, my ability to walk, that I could walk to work or whatever, or that I could dance in a way as I'm used to. But okay, so do you see what happens to my speciality on walking? Suddenly my walking is taken away from me. That's how it felt. Or I suddenly lost my walking, which forms the base of a lot of things I did in life.
Not just tango, it's like, yeah, it's a lot of different things.
Even as a teenager, I could, when I had a sad day, I could cure myself by changing the way I walk. I could make myself happy by changing how I'm walking. I could influence the state of my soul, of my mind, by changing the way I walk. And now I'm in a state where I'm learning how to walk again. And luckily, that is also this pandemic is one of the, for me, positive sides. Working from home, and there are friends now which come every evening to me, and we walk outside. They have offered me, well, would it help you if we come every evening after work? We are all working from home. It's only 5 minutes from your house where we live. We just come and pick you up, and we go for a little walk. So there is, and so I walk at least half an hour every day. In the weekend, Siobhan, my wife, walks with me, and then she's always very happy what has happened during the week. Yeah, that's where I am now.
So you're slowly like rising from your wheelchair in a way.
Yes, I try.
I've seen this amazing photo, maybe not recently, I wanted to say recently, but maybe a few months ago, that I was really surprised to see you, stand up to, and it's a very proud feeling even for me. I'm just external, like I'm just a spectator, and even when I see that, it's glorious in a way, and I'm very happy. I maybe it's like a step too far right now, but I'm really wondering, like you might be able to dance again. So how well, that's one thing, and then the second thing is, like, how does that feel? Like,
no, wonderful. It when I at the moment I couldn't really teach how to dance anymore because I'm not able to show with my body what I'm talking about, and it was always a very important part of my lessons. So theoretically, I can explain
especially if you have this background.
everything.
I
Yeah.
love what I love about this talk is that there's this connection between your acting background and your drama background and this dancing, and especially tango. It's very interesting. So go on. Sorry.
Yeah.
I hope you remember.
No, I started. Yes. So my being a tango DJ became more important at the moment. I could not stand in front of dance classes anymore as a teacher. And then I suddenly discovered, and it's also nice, Michael Avoca says it nearly with the same words when he explains what a tango DJ is doing. Actually, what I do the whole time when I sit there with my laptop nowadays and play the music for the dancers, I'm dancing with them. And I dance more with them when I'm allowed to DJ than when I'm sitting at the side and watching the dancers, which I also love very much to do. So I never had the feeling that I lost the dancing. What I sometimes, certain pieces of D'Arienzo and Caló and also Troilo that when I'm DJing, it can be touched to tears when I think, oh, how much would I love to dance this now? In the right embrace, in the right flow together with the other couples. At this moment, in this space, with this light, and how we all feel now by hearing this amazing music. And then I realized, although I don't do it really physically, directly, there is something in me which is still dancing.
It's like a state of mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it also develops. I even have the feeling, let's call it my inner dancer, has developed further because the physical body is not able at the moment to do what it was to do.
It reminds me of people who go blind and then develop very strong other senses because they're compensating in a positive sense for having a certain disability. So maybe this happened to you as well, and you might actually be very have some kind of consciousness that nobody else has once you actually start dancing again one day. Who knows?
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm actually maybe I'm hurrying a bit, so to say. Like, so is it like, do you expect to be dancing again?
I can dream it. I can fantasize it. Good friend in Berlin, she said to me, you have to just imagine that there will be no wheelchair for you anymore. I'm working towards it without also without wanting to force myself too much. So I have a full 40-hour work week for an IT company here in the Netherlands, which costs a lot of energy. And then I'm ready with my working day, and then I start exercise how to walk, which I also nowadays also do during the working day itself, which is very important.
Okay.
To keep the flow going.
You can independently, like for example, in your house, you can.
In my house is great, no problem. I can even leave the house here. It's a very nice area in the center of Gouda we are living in, where it's a little bit tricky because the ground is it's not always even keel. But that is possible. And at work anyway, there's a lot of space. There's also there are a lot of opportunities to walk safely for me.
Okay. Well, I'd absolutely love to see you walk. See you walk. I want to say walk, but actually, I want to say dance. Both things, actually. I've seen neither of those live, and I'm sure a lot of people who will watch this interview will, absolutely be delighted to see you dance. Because I have never actually seen those videos you mentioned of you dancing or teaching. So it's a great fantasy for me as well. So would you mind telling us a bit more about like the DJing and your milonga, sweet milonga, like these are things you're famous for, and there are also a lot of listeners who might not be so familiar with this. So I'd love you to share a bit of that story if you can. Sorry, I just have to check the time sometimes if I'm watching my phone. It's not because I'm reading some kind of notification, but it's just I need to keep track of the time a bit because last interview was a bit too long, so that's why.
That's fine. I started DJing for tango before I started teaching tango, so that was already before the mid-90s in Aachen. And in those days we really played everything. Even if we would have found a nice classical piece of music where it's nice to dance on, we would have used it at a milonga. And later in the Netherlands, and also together with Siobhan, I learned more and more to deeply appreciate the traditional tango especially from the Época de Oro era. But what in the beginning triggered me most when I started DJing for tango were two things. I want to give the opportunity that people are able to dance tonight, because in Stuttgart is a very rich tango scene. That was it already in the 90s. So every evening had its practice, its practica. There was only one, I think it was the Tuesday, there was nothing. So I picked Tuesday. The friends should also be able to dance on Tuesdays. So giving the opportunity, there's music, I have music, come and dance. And then I realized, because when you create theater productions, you're telling stories, but you always are creating spaces, inner and outer spaces. And these spaces are not only spaces to look at or to take in, like you take in architecture. You take you perceive architecture or sculptural art differently than painting, so because it has more dimensions. Theater also involves the human being that walks through the space, says something, and very often even music. So actually everything you can create and you can use artistically comes together in a theater production. So once I had established that Tuesday evening, I was actually also looking for what are you doing with the space now? The space is empty when you arrive in the evening and you set up your music set. Then you start filling a space with sound, which is not only sound, which is music, which will be around the people who come into the space, which will give the people even an opportunity to move. So I felt like a decorator and a musical architect. I felt as a creator of spaces, musical spaces. And as long as I was very experimental DJ, using all the material I could find, which is danceable on what way ever, there were a lot of possibilities. So I I had also the possibility to free myself in all directions. And then after I had found a kind of freedom, then I started studying the old maestros, the old orchestras. And then D'Arienzo more and more sounded good to me. I suddenly discovered again for myself, wow, what you all can do with Biagi. I suddenly realized, now, wait a minute, Biagi is not only staccato, what I thought in the beginning. No, there is in this, when you look at the strong beat and the strong rhythms, there are unbelievable melody flows in certain years, which you both use as a dancer. And so all the freedom I had gained before, when I couldn't give a damn what are the rules or what aren't the rules, and then I suddenly realized, oh yeah, you can use that. You find that back. This is all as if you find little gems which have been worked on already by a jewelry maker. This, you find it back, the fluidity, the crystallization, the colors even. People experience colors when they move, different colors. If you ask them, what color do you feel? Oh, I don't feel anything. No, but if there would be a color by this, what you just did in your dance, what would the color be? Oh, well, maybe a light green, as you have it in the early spring. Wow. And then we were just listening, we were just dancing on a Fresedo Ray piece. Oh, okay, so you felt the light green of an early spring at that moment. Beautiful.
So did you like find a deeper level of, like, within this traditional music, a deeper level of this freedom than previously?
Yeah, you can call it a framework, what you create in an evening, or what is there. If you follow, you play two tango tandas, 4 tangos, and then you have a waltz tanda, and then two tango tandas again, and a milonga tanda, cortinas in between, which close the curtain after a tanda, and then the curtain opens again musically when the new tanda starts. When at the moment I started to stick to that pattern, to that frame, I felt, oh, there's something I can hold on to. It grounds me. It makes what I do more predictable, more that a dancer at the beginning of a tanda knows what he's choosing for if he asks a partner to dance with him or her. Feels like as if the years before I started to play in that structure, in that pattern, as if the paintings I made were not framed yet. And then suddenly, yes. And now I put it in frames. And it is possible to look at it, to do something with it. This is pictureful example. I don't know.
But in a sense, did you gain more freedom within this structure?
Yeah, because I could hold on to this beautiful framework.
Okay. And you don't regret having lost this, well, I'm sure you don't regret, but I'm still going to ask it anyway, that you didn't lose that you lost this kind of artistic freedom from the beginning when you just played whatever.
No, I don't have the feeling I lost artistic freedom. I think it is more, what I do now is much more appropriate, also a service to the dancers. I'm not doing it only for myself because I have this great inspiration at the moment that it has to be this music and everybody will love it. No, I really have to tune in with the audience, with the visitors of the milonga, and then I do what I think, what is needed, what is appreciated. So I like this much more, and I can't say that I have lost the other way of DJing, because once in a while there are opportunities to do that. If organizers ask for a set like that, and I had it in, when was it, before Corona started? In the late summer of 2019, I had a few experimental sets in the south of England. It was at that moment a hell of a job to prepare them because I was not used to that anymore. But I very much enjoyed the flow that was possible to be there. So I have not lost that. I'm not only not choosing for that in the first instance anymore. It is still there.
You're just less interested.
Yeah, and also the tango dancing has developed further. That's why many dancers really crave for being able to dance on the old tango music.
Yes,
this is just that's what they want.
That it's just very interesting, like
especially the young people. It's very interesting. Yeah. Especially the young generation wants the old stuff.
Yeah,
they suddenly are able to appreciate that from the beginning.
You know, I think it's an amazing conclusion that to a lot of people, for example, I think there's still a lot of people around who prefer this kind of non-traditional music, and they feel like it's more diverse or something. But actually, once you get far into this journey, it seems that a lot of people, like I always liked traditional tango music from the start, and the other music I didn't like, so I can't really speak myself, but I know from some other people that once they started to appreciate music, it's like there was no way back. And because in the end, that's where the real jewels are, you know, the real gems are, because that's the analogy you used. And it seems like there's no return from that. So it's quite interesting to hear that in your story, especially considering how you started as an experimental DJ, which I guess was very normal for those times, because we haven't really mentioned that. But you know, this whole structure of tandas and cortinas and all these rules, like it's something that probably wasn't really around in the 90s. So you know, it's it's a nice story. Do you still like are you still teaching? Like maybe not with Corona, but I mean in general, like were you still teaching the last years?
It happens very seldom that an old friend asks me, I had lessons from you in the past. Would it be able that you give me a private together with my partner and just look what we are doing, how we have developed further? In the beginning, when I just had landed in the wheelchair, that happened quite often, and I'm very open to do that. But it's nothing I can promote, because you when you want to promote your teaching, you also have to be seen. You have to show. You have to also work on the transparency of your movement, that people see the beauty of this dance, which is actually independent from how you do it individually. So you make your movement more and more transparent when you teach, because you want that your people find their own individual dances. You don't want that they look, when they dance, like you look. That's how it is for me.
Okay. And you think, well, you are not involved with your wife either, right, in teaching?
No, we don't. No, we don't. In the beginning, we taught together. I was sitting in the wheelchair, and she was actually doing the part where you see everything and how it feels. So we found ways to do that. But then it was very important choice also that we found that she found partners to teach with which she could dance in the way that it has to be done if you want to teach.
Demonstrate things pretty much.
Yeah, show things,
right.
Explain things, because you don't explain only in words, you explain while you move, while you do the movement. There come words to it, and sometimes you explain without talking because you want that you the people who come to your lessons are also able to understand movements without explanations around it. This is always you want to open the eyes for the movement.
Yeah, and if there's one person who realizes that, it's you, because of your background in not only in teaching acting, but also walking, movement in that field. So you have a very deep level of analysis of how this works, and then I understand that at some point it just gets tricky when you cannot do the movements yourself, and but do you expect to ever, well, would you like to get back to teaching if you can dance again?
I'm not busy with that. I have not thought about that yet. Maybe because it was also what I missed most in the beginning.
Okay.
Being able to teach, seeing my people every evening. No, I'm not. I'm open for that. If it happens, it happens. And if I have time, I certainly would do it.
Well, let me ask a different question then. So you said that in a way this DJing was a replacement for dancing or for teaching. Maybe you were talking about dancing mostly, but I guess also for teaching. But you're also known for being one of the organizers of the Sweet Milonga in Gouda. Can you tell us a bit about this milonga, how it started, and maybe like if it like helps, like if it brings you some kind of element, like a replacement from this past, in this line that we're talking about?
Annelies Oosterban is the organizer, and she asked Siobhan and me to be her house DJs. So because we had 2 guests in the past, it's already a few years ago, but normally you hear us 1 month Siobhan, 1 month me.
So maybe I was wrong saying you're one of the organizers. You're not.
No, we are only,
okay.
Because we're the house DJs and we're always DJing. So we are also all involved with the organization, and we help with the publicity, and it also feels like our milonga, but the organizer is Annelies.
Okay.
She's also, who just, if there's critique, it lands in her ears, on her plate. Positive remarks, negative remarks. This is what she has to deal with, and it is her love in the end what made her find that space in Gouda, because it was a new cafe at the Coffee Fabrik. They just had opened, and we all saw this is a beautiful wooden floor, and she took out of her enthusiasm and love for the tango, she took the initiative to get in contact with the owners and to persuade them that there should be once a month a little milonga. How is it possible with neighbors? Will they cope with it? And then when you do it for a few years, do the dancers consume enough at the bar that it is interesting for the owner of the cafe. Now this is all that's where Annelies poured her love into as an organizer, and I feel very honored that she wanted to have me as one of her house DJs. And when that started, that was the time. Let me see, how many years do we exist now? I can't tell you the exact number of years, but that was the time also where tango tunes in Vienna started to make new transfers from vinyls and from shellac records, transfers which were better as we knew them from the CDs we were using at that time. And it was also the time where the encuentros started in Europe. So you have marathons and you have encuentros, and the encuentros, they were from the beginning very, very strict about how you structure a DJ set with tandas and cortinas and traditional music. And the dancers asked each other to dance with mirada and cabeceo. So also the young generation suddenly saw, hey, it is the possibility to create a weekend or an evening for tango in a very structured way, which is beautiful, and where we can hear the original tango music, where we can hear that, where we can dance on it. So we were very lucky that we started at that time. So the music got better and better. The transfers, they still are improved very much. You have now TTT in Tango Time Travel, Benedict and Ingo, and I think they live in Brussels, in Belgium, which are making the most amazing transfers. And you suddenly, when you put on your headphones, you see the music is so well transferred. You see the orchestra sitting in front of you. The music becomes real, tangible. And at the moment that this started, this process, we were lucky that that Annelies took the initiative to organize Sweet Milonga.
So actually, let me get back to that, because we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, time left. So this milonga, in short, what that so in this line of what we were talking about your your personal experience of that, does this milonga and it becomes a kind of social gathering in a way, it becomes this cozy place that you always look forward to every month, as with a lot of people have that with milongas, or had that before Corona. So is there something some kind of satisfaction for you, even though you cannot teach anymore, in that place?
I see it's a possibility to see my friends, to meet my friends, to be with them, and in a way even dance with them. And so that's what we had monthly, and when we will be allowed to do it again, we will hopefully have it again. And also the weekends we travel abroad or in the Netherlands to DJ at other places. These are also moments to meet friends. And this is also what I think is what you do when you go to a milonga. You want to see your friends, your people, how close or distant they are to you. And then there are this few precious moments where you dance a tango together, a tanda, several tandas together, have a little conversation, or maybe not, only listen to the beautiful music. And then you go back to your normal daily working life.
Yeah, it's actually it's just something I wanted to highlight in your story, because this is obviously a thing a lot of people miss right now. And it's also the one thing I miss the most, more than dancing. I miss just this being together socially, especially in Tango. There's a lot of introverts and people, who live very busy lives and are not always, very social in a conventional sense. But once we get together in this place, in this space, it makes us very happy. So sorry, due to time constraints, I just wanted to move on to the last topic. I'm actually doubting whether I still, it's so great about these informal, like unscripted interviews that you spend so much time talking about interesting things that in the end you don't always have time to talk about everything. So I'm doubting a bit whether I should still, actually mention it now. But let's just try it in a few minutes. Before this whole epidemic, a lot of people are making content. Well, actually, that's what we're doing right now. We're making a lot of like online content, and a lot of people are making things like this. Some people are making podcasts, whatever. But you were actually the first person doing this with your Radio Tango program on the radio. Some people might not be so familiar with this. So can you tell us a bit about this initiative and?
It's every Monday at 10 o'clock Dutch time on Gouda. It's the public broadcasting service we have in Gouda, and you can listen to it also via internet. And there are some broadcasts which you also find back on Mixcloud. This has old roots. When I having Radio Tango, when I started teaching in Aachen, I was lucky having contact to a guy who made broadcasts, made radio programs for Radio Aachen. And I thought this is maybe good if you want to teach how to dance tango in this city. It would be nice if the people once a week also could listen to the music and learn a little bit about the music. And that's where I started. And I called it already Radio Tango at that time. And it was very, very, very beautiful because we were still working with tapes. So he was really cutting the tapes in the end and putting the ends together. And I think everything had to be scripted. And I had no computer in those days. So he sometimes sat beside me and wrote down what I said, what I wanted to say. And was very well prepared. Was very lucky that my first Spanish teacher, Claudia Hernandez, actually classical trained singer from Caracas in Venezuela. She lived in Aachen. She was my first Spanish teacher. But she had been a radio maker in Caracas. She had in Caracas, when she lived there, a program with jazz music and cooking recipes.
Okay.
So she was sharing beautiful recipes and was playing amazing jazz music and knew a lot of the more tropical Southern American dances, salsa, son, guaracha. And at a certain moment, she got involved and helped me because I was not used in doing research you need to do when you want to make a radio program. She helped me in learning that. And the other way around, she had a beautiful program called Encuentro Latinoamérica. Is that Spanish? I don't know. That's, I think, was the title, where she played salsa music in the first instance, but music I've never heard before, old, new. And I was allowed, she was speaking Spanish. So the people in Aachen you have a big community of students studying in Aachen, doing all technical studies, which come from Latin America. Mm. So you had a program once a week also with salsa music, where half of the program was spoken in Spanish and the other half was spoken in German. And you had great music. So there are the roots. Radio Tango Aachen, and now it's Gouda. Yeah, that's what I started once I was not teaching how to dance tango anymore. I got in contact here in Gouda to the people who organize Radio, and I was allowed to fill 1 hour slot in the week with tango music.
It was
We had
also
we had all these great interviews with Michael Lavocca. Every time he writes a new book, he gives us the honor. We're allowed to talk to him, and you find them back on Mixcloud.
yeah. So I'll link that as well under the video.
If you like, yeah.
And it's obviously something you are respected and famous for this work with the radio, and you know, it's very nice for me to have, you know, heard a bit like some personal things about this whole journey, because anytime you make that program, in a sense, or anytime you DJ, there's this history, like it might be hidden, but it's still influencing you to this day, like the things you have experienced. And so it's been super interesting to listen to you. And you know, I'm totally sure we could go on for 5 hours or something, but unfortunately we don't really have the time. So I would like to, just the last thing is like, is there any special song you would like to share with us, with our viewers?
Yeah, this is always an interesting question for me, because if you start thinking longer about it, of course there are a lot of songs. So what I do nowadays, I just wait a minute, what is the first tango that pops up into my mind, and I choose that one. So there is a not so well known tango played by the orchestra of Caló, and it's called Tanto. And the singer Mario Cané sings it, and he's also not as famous as the other three we know together with Caló. And yeah, I love this very much. It touches it. Even when I listened to it before we started this interview, I was touched to tears again. And I also can remember how I DJ'd it for the last time in public. That was at the beginning of January 2020 in Lviv in
Ukraine.
the Ukraine. In Ukraine, this you might have heard of this DJ festival called Remolino.
Yeah.
And I had a late night slot, which started somewhere at 3 o'clock in the night. And during that set, I played this piece. I can still remember the magic. So you might also want to post a link to a version on YouTube that the listeners can listen to it.
I definitely will. Well, it's always nice to have someone mention not just, you know, a slightly unknown song, even though it can also happen with very well-known songs. But I like it especially when there's this thing connected, this anecdote connected to that song. So well, thank you very much for the interview today, and
it was a pleasure.
You know, I hope to see you again in real life when things are turning back to normal a bit again. And
Yes.
Well, let's be optimistic, because you you had your first jab yesterday, and you know, we're all hyped for the return of the milongas, and of course the return of DJ Oliver as well. So let's enjoy. You know, there's in Dutch there's this word for like it's just called like voorgenieten. So it's like you pre-enjoy something. And that's the sensation I get here. Well, see you next time, Oliver, and thanks for the interview.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Lucas. Take care. See you soon.